Good morning, it's Wednesday, May 27th, and we're going to continue our discussion on action with a prompt from the Daily Stoic, which reads, "What small stuff should I sweat?" So back in 1993, I remember watching the movie Groundhog Day, and the part where Bill Murray decides to get really good at all sorts of random life skills, like learning how to play the piano and learning how to ice sculpt. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, that would be so awesome to have that time to just focus on getting good at things like that. But of course, this is the stuff of fictional movies, right? I mean, who really has that time? And then fast forward to the end of 2019, and I'm reading the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, in which he introduces a concept that he calls the 2-minute rule. In this idea, he suggests that when you start a new habit, it should take you no more than 2 minutes to complete. Oftentimes, when we're trying to get started with something, we try to do too much too soon. We're so focused on the end goal that the gap between here and there is just too big. So we either do typically one of two things. One, we freeze, daunted by the entirety of the transformation, and never get started. Or two, we go too big at the start, and we either burn out or flame out. Either way, the end result is not very good, and we give up. So Clear proposes that any habit can be scaled down to just 2 minutes. Thinking about it this way, we're attempting to make it as easy as possible to get started. And once we've started doing the right thing, it's much easier just to continue doing it. So then if we combine this with the fact that mastery of a skill is most dependent upon consistency and frequency, rather than the total amount of time invested, we have a very powerful tool at our disposal. And aside from the more efficient rewiring of the brain that occurs with high frequency, it also gives us opportunities to cast votes in favor of the identity that defines who we want to be. And that matters quite a bit in terms of how you carry yourself and your commitment to the cause. Now, I have to admit that when I first read this, I was intrigued but highly skeptical. I mean, how could 2 minutes accomplish anything productive? Nevertheless, I decided to give it a go, but with one modification. I called it the 5-minute rule. Pretending that I was Phil Connors from Groundhog Day, I thought about what skills I wanted to acquire. After assessing the why those skills were of importance to me, I decided to focus on areas related to music, to athletic abilities requiring significant muscle memory, to foreign language development. And I then looked at my schedule to see where I could fit in 5-minute blocks of time to dedicate regularly, and decided to start the experiment. So each day I spend a minimum of 5 minutes playing the piano, 5 minutes learning to play the guitar, 5 minutes learning and working on a new CrossFit skill. First it was handstands, then it was double unders, and 5 minutes working in Duolingo, building up my Portuguese vocabulary. And I keep track of my consistency in my habit tracker, and I usually average about 90% plus consistency in terms of completing those actions. Sometimes I spend a little bit more, it just depends on how I feel, but the real secret is just to master the habit of showing up, even when you don't feel like it. So this forged mentality has enormous carryover into more important areas of our life. It shows us that the little things really do matter. They aren't trivialities to be ignored or unattended to. The philosopher Zeno is credited with saying that well-being is realized by small steps, but it is truly no small thing. When we make the right choice consistently, even though it is small, it has a compounding effect that is deceivingly significant. Further, small choices can act as a gateway to even more impactful behaviors as we build up and reinforce that identity. So how's my experiment going? Well, 5 months in, and I'm playing the piano far more regularly than I did whenever I took lessons for 10 years. Through my 5 minutes each day, I've learned to play 3 new challenging classical compositions. I've gone from no experience with a guitar to knowing how to play scales and chords and even a few basic songs. My Portuguese mastery is better than ever, and I significantly improved my freestanding handstand and went from being able to connect just 10 double unders to regularly being able to connect 50 double unders on multiple rounds. Even better, I feel like a musician again. I feel like a more well-rounded athlete, and I feel like a decent linguist. I guess that you could say I kind of feel like Phil Connors from the movie. And I want to go ahead and close with a line from Marcus Aurelius that I keep very close to me whenever I think about the 2-minute or the 5-minute rule. And keep in mind that he's talking about riding horses here because it was 2,000 years ago. But he says, practice what even seems impossible. The left hand is useless at almost everything for lack of practice, but it guides the reins better than the right from practice. And that's why we sweat the small stuff, even in 2-minute increments. Have a great day. Bye.